The South African Police Service units have received over 130 vehicles in all 9 provinces. They'll be used by crime scene examiners and investigators across the country. Joining us now is Lesiba Thobakgale, the spokesperson of the South African Policing Union. Dr. Thobakgale, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Now, 130 cars to be dispatched across the country. What was your union's reaction to the government's announcement of these vehicles being handed over to the force?
Thank you so much for having us, Katla. Greetings to yourself and to your viewers back at home. Our reaction, clearly, we welcome the multiplication of resources. As you know, we've been on record talking about lack of resources for the South African police services, and any form of effort that really brings resources to make sure that policing can happen clearly in South Africa, we clearly welcome, because when you look at the crime scene experts and also investigators, they play a very critical role when it comes to crime investigation. So vehicles are some of the resources that they need to make sure that they function optimally. So we clearly welcome such an initiative, and we would really, even in future, like to see such initiatives happening, because there is indeed quite a challenge when it comes to physical resources when it comes to the South African police services.
And just for it to function optimally, like you say in your words, just explain, maybe in the interest of our viewers, the severity or the impact of having these vehicles on a day-to-day operation and the capabilities of police officers on the ground in them being able to further execute their jobs.
Remember, policing is it is that work or a specific duty that clearly happens 24/7. So there is no, break when it comes to policing, which clearly means that resources, inclusive of vehicles, will use that as an example, meaning that most of them, they function 24/7. And if there is another shift that is working, then when they go out, then there's another shift that is coming. So it clearly means that the vehicles that the South African police services are using, they are not able to last for a longest time, because indeed they keep on functioning. And sometimes some of them, they do break and then they happen to go to the garages for a longer period and this and that. That on its own, it hampers service delivery. That is why sometimes you'll hear members of the community saying that they called a police station, then there were no resources. They said that the van was out, or there were no vans to go out at that specific time. So that is why we are saying that any form of initiative that seeks to make sure that there are resources, more especially mobility. Vehicles are used as mobility when it comes to fighting crime, because when members have to attend to crime scenes, they need a vehicle to get there. When one has to go and open a specific docket somewhere, when they have to take, investigators have to take exhibits somewhere where it goes to the laboratories and anywhere where they are needed, they need vehicles. When awaiting trial prisoners needs to be transported to and from court, a vehicle is needed. And when our streets needs to be patrolled, they get to be patrolled. Mostly, in most cases, it's vehicles that are being used. So vehicles play a very critical role within the South African police services function. And with having quite a lot of vehicles, it really assists when it comes to the output that members are giving when it comes to service delivery. And also even those crime scene experts, they have to travel to different types of crime scenes to make sure that they gather evidence that is quite important in order for the investigators to be able to get convictions out of those types of crimes. So that on its own, for their mobility, vehicles, and even other resources that they use as the tools of trade, are needed for them to be able to function. So resources within the South African police services generally, they really play a critical role, because when we know that currently SAPS still has a challenge when it comes to the human capital, but also when it comes to the physical resources. So when we are seeing resources being multiplied, that is something we clearly welcome.
Assessments and engagements with members of your union, which areas would you implore most of these vehicles be deployed to?
Remember, these vehicles specifically are there for those crime scene experts, those who really go and visit types of crime scenes, and also investigators who go there to see really what has happened here, what is it that they can gather from there. So all across the country, across all 9 provinces in South Africa, our understanding is that when the handing over was done by the National Commissioner on Friday, clearly it goes to include all the 9 provinces. So resources are needed everywhere, being it in rural, being it in urban areas. So those are the types of resources that are needed, because policing and even the high levels of crime that we are seeing in this country, unfortunately, it gets to affect the urban and even the rural areas. So even the shortages of vehicles, or even being the shortage of the human capital, it is across when we look at rural and also even urban areas or even semi-urban areas.
Now, at the handover of these vehicles, one other issue that has come to the fore is obviously that of the police minister's term coming to an end very soon. What's your union's assessment of his performance and legacy on issues important to your members?
From our side, as SAPS, if indeed the minister is not coming back to be the minister even in the 7th administration, we want to wish him well in what he has done within the South African Police Services. And further to that, we welcome any new incoming minister. And also, we really are not choosy on anyone who could come and work with us, as long as they have the same vision to make sure that they are fighting crime. That is what we need, because when we look at the high levels of crime that we have in South Africa, we really need, they really need someone who can stand and take a stand really against criminals and be able to give support to the police to make sure that that person will fight for the budget, so that the South African Police Services, when that minister is in cabinet, can clearly be able to make sure that the budget of SAPS is not cut, because the budget cuts really affect in terms of the output of what policing is supposed to be giving to our society. So we are really open, and we are really looking forward to the new minister who is coming in, if indeed Minister Thobakgale is no longer coming back. And we've seen the passion that he showed in fighting crime, to say that he was really having this passion to clearly make sure that crime is really squeezed within our country. And we really hope that whoever is coming in will also have the very same passion. But our hands and even our hearts as SAPS are open to say that we are prepared to work with anyone who can be appointed to be the new police minister in the 7th administration.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Lesiba, and we certainly do wish that the new formation, or whoever would be the Minister of the Police, would be able to work hand in hand with your union and other unions in ensuring that the ministry is carried forward in a way that it should. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.